We live in times where light and darkness coexist so subtly that often we don't even notice the spiritual battles happening around us. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how, certain moments, we seem to be caught in a kind of dangerous dance where every misstep can have serious consequences? The chosen and anointed face invisible traps often laid by the devil himself, who acts cunningly, using tactics so subtle that they go unnoticed. Have you ever stopped to reflect on how these traps manifest? It could be that doubt that arises out of nowhere, a temptation that seems harmless, or even a distraction that diverts your focus from your purpose. These situations may seem simple, but the enemy is clever and knows how to turn small weaknesses into significant stumbling block. How many times have you felt lost, as if you were off the path? What could be behind that feeling? Many times, the devil doesn't need to shout to be heard. He whispers, planting doubts in the minds of the chosen, making them question their faith and mission. And we cannot forget the emotional traps that erode confidence and determination. What happens when an anointed one loses sight of their calling? How can each small deviation hide something darker? These questions are crucial and lead us to think about the resilience needed to keep our light shining amidst the darkness. Let's explore this journey together, understanding how to protect ourselves and remain steadfast in our faith. Temptation and seduction. Temptation is one of the most powerful weapons the devil uses to divert the anointed from their path. Think of a moment of weakness, where a voice whispers in your ear, offering shortcuts that seem to promise immediate satisfaction. But in reality, these shortcuts can lead us to ruin. The seduction that accompanies these temptations is skillful, often disguised as seemingly harmless opportunity. Here lies the dilemma: follow faith or to give in to the desire of the moment. The anointed need to be vigilant, for temptation is not limited to what is outside. It invades the mind and heart, where the true battle takes place. Doubt creeps in, and suddenly one starts to question whether it is really worth continuing on the spiritual path. This internal struggle is exhausting, and that is exactly what the devil wants: for us to feel lost, as if we are trapped in a labyrinth with no exit. Temptation is an art, and the devil is a master at exploiting our weaknesses. He knows well the points where we are most vulnerable and knows how to manipulate them. When we feel insecure or alone, temptation intensifies. This is the critical moment where we must decide to give in or to resist. The support of the spiritual community can be decisive here, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. Temptation and seduction can also appear subtly, with thoughts like, everyone does this, or it's okay to try. This leads us to rationalize behaviors that we know go against our principles. The key to resisting is to strengthen faith through prayer, meditation, and reading the scriptures. The more we connect with our purpose, the more resilient we become to the devil's traps. Finally, it is essential that we maintain constant vigilance over the temptations around us. Knowledge and attention are our greatest allies. Recognizing that temptation is part of the spiritual journey helps us not to feel shame or defeat when it appears. Instead, we see it as an opportunity to grow and strengthen our faith, remembering that each time we resist temptation, we take a step toward our greater purpose. Doubts and disbelief. Doubts and disbelief are like shadows that, if not controlled, can grow and take over our spiritual lives. A simple question can turn into a storm of uncertainty, making us doubt even the most solid truths we believe in. And how these doubts spread, they create cracks in our conviction, leading us to question our worth and purpose. These doubts are particularly dangerous, as they often arise in moments of solitude or crisis, leaving us even more vulnerable. It is exactly in this space of fragility that the devil acts, instigating thoughts of disbelief that can erode years of faith and dedication. What could be a healthy reflection often transforms into a vicious cycle of insecurities and fears. The environment around us can also amplify these doubts. When we are not surrounded by a strong spiritual community, these uncertainties tend to gain more strength. The support and encouragement from others are fundamental in dissipating doubts. Being surrounded by brothers and sisters in faith gives us security and strengthens our convictions. On the other hand, the lack of this support leaves us more vulnerable to straying from the path. Moreover, Doubt can lead to spiritual paralysis. When we begin to hesitate in making decisions that could strengthen our faith, such as participating in group activities or delving deeper into spiritual studies, we end up stagnating. This stagnation can be devastating, creating a cycle of discouragement, feeds on the doubt itself. If we do not interrupt this cycle, we risk completely distancing ourselves from spirituality. But it's important to remember that doubts are not enemies of faith, but part of our spiritual growth. Facing these uncertainties can lead us to a deeper and more personal understanding of our faith. By confronting doubts head-on and seeking answers, we can emerge stronger and more resolute in our beliefs, transforming uncertainty into an opportunity for renewal. Isolation and loneliness. Isolation is one of the most effective strategies the devil uses to weaken our spirituality. When we feel alone, loneliness becomes fertile ground for doubts and temptation. The lack of support and connection can lead us to a spiritual crisis, where we question whether we truly belong to something greater. It is in this vulnerable state the devil attacks us, making us feel even weaker and unworthy. Loneliness is often accompanied by a sense of helplessness. Away from the spiritual community, we may start to feel that we are fighting our battles alone, with no one to share our struggles or victory. This can lead us into a negative spiral, where we drift further away, creating a cycle of isolation that seems impossible to break. It is one of the oldest and most effective traps of the enemy. Furthermore, isolation can divert us from our spiritual purpose. Without interaction with others, we may lose ourselves in our own worries and fears, forgetting the mission that motivated us to follow the spiritual path. The lack of support creates a void, where we begin to question our beliefs and values, making us more susceptible to the traps of temptation. Spiritual community plays a vital role in breaking this cycle of isolation. Moments of group prayer, study, and social gatherings are essential for keeping us connected. When we come together, we remember that we are not alone in our struggles. This support network is a powerful antidote to loneliness, reinforcing the idea that together we are stronger. Finally, it is crucial to actively seek connection with others. When we feel isolated, it is important to make a conscious effort to reconnect with the community. Isolation can be a treacherous trap, but the pursuit of connection can reverse this situation, transforming loneliness into companionship and spiritual strengthening. False promises and illusions. False promises are like shadows that creep, deceptive and seductive. The devil, ever cunning, makes use of these illusions to draw us into a path that seems easier, but in reality takes us further from our true mission. Often, we are led to believe that what shines is gold, when in fact, it is nothing more than a trick, light. It is in these deceptive promises that many become lost, trading the eternal for the transient. These illusions can manifest in various forms. Sometimes they appear as material success, like a promising career that demands spiritual sacrifices. Other times, they are relationships that seem perfect, but in truth, pull us away from our beliefs and values. The greater danger is that these false promises often offer instant gratification, while our true mission requires patience and perseverance. By allowing ourselves to be swayed by these promises, the anointed often face an internal conflict. The struggle between the desire to follow the path of truth and the temptation to accept an easier alternative can cause emotional and spiritual weariness. This internal battle can lead to a state of confusion where we no longer know which path to follow. It is precisely at this moment of weakness that the devil acts, distancing us even further from our true vocation. Moreover, false promises have a devastating side effect: the loss of trust in God. When we feel deceived or disillusioned, our faith begins to wane. We may question whether it is worth continuing to follow a mission that seems so distant from the promises made to us. The insecurity that results from this disillusionment can lead us into a vicious cycle of discouragement and the search for temporary solutions. Therefore, it is crucial to be aware of these traps. Recognizing that what appears good may just be an illusion is a vital step to regain the right path. As we discern the difference between truth and deception, we can strengthen our faith and reorient our lives toward what truly matters, avoiding the seductive traps that the devil places in our path. Discouragement and spiritual fatigue. Discouragement and spiritual fatigue are like dark clouds that gather over our souls, obscuring the light of hope. For the anointed, this feeling can arise after long periods of struggle, prayer, and hard work. The weight of expectations, both internal and external, can become a heavy burden to bear. In this scenario, the devil takes advantage of our vulnerability, trying to convince us that we are alone and that our struggles are in vain. Spiritual fatigue can also result from a disconnection from God. When we feel overwhelmed, it is common for us to withdraw from prayer and meditation, which are essential for strengthening our faith. This disconnection creates a vicious cycle. The more distant we are from God, the more discouraged and tired we become. The devil then feeds on this weakness, reinforcing the idea that faith no longer offers comfort or direction. The pressures of the outside world can intensify this discouragement. Daily demands, family responsibilities, and professional obligations make us feel like there is no space to cultivate our spirituality. In this context, comparing ourselves to others often generates feelings of inferiority and frustration. When we look at those who seem to have a more active spiritual life, we can feel even more discouraged. Discouragement can affect our community relationships. When we are tired and disheartened, it is easy to isolate ourselves, distancing ourselves from those who could offer support. The devil knows this and uses isolation as a strategy to weaken the unity of the community. The lack of mutual encouragement can result in a state of apathy that spreads, affecting not only the individual, but also those around them. Therefore, it is essential to recognize these moments of weakness and seek support. Talking to others, participating in prayer groups, and turning to the scriptures are ways to revitalize our faith, remembering that discouragement and fatigue are human experiences, and that even the strongest face these battles can help restore hope. Returning to the source of strength and renewal is the key to overcoming these emotional and spiritual storms. Internal and external conflict. When we talk about conflicts, it is impossible to ignore the internal struggles we face daily. The human mind is a true battlefield, where doubts, fears, and insecurities constantly clash. For the anointed, these struggles may be even more intense, as we are always seeking validation for our faith and purpose. These internal conflicts can lead us to a state of confusion, where the clarity of the divine calling becomes blurred. The feeling of being torn between what we believe and the realities of everyday life can be overwhelming. But external conflicts are no less significant. Community, which should be a safe harbor, often turns into a battleground. Rivalries, competition, and disagreements can arise, creating a hostile environment. When we get caught up in disputes, the energy that could be directed toward our mission ends up being diverted to resolving superficial issues. This not only weakens the community, but also makes us feel more isolated in our struggles. These conflicts, both internal and external, have a profound impact on our spirituality. Constant struggle can lead us to spiritual exhaustion, making us feel that the battle is never ending. When we are weary, it is easier to stray from the spiritual path and lose sight of our connection with God. A stressed mind finds it difficult to focus on the promises and hope that faith offers. Furthermore, it is important to recognize that conflicts do not arise out of nowhere. They are often fueled by a combination of factors, including external influences that seek to destabilize our faith. The lack of communication and mutual understanding can exacerbate these tensions, making them even harder to resolve. The absence of constructive dialogue can turn small disagreements into lasting feuds. The challenge is to find a way toward reconciliation and peace. For the anointed, this may mean facing our own insecurities and opening ourselves up to empathy and forgiveness. The true victory is not in winning an argument, but in restoring unity and strengthening the community. When we learn to navigate these conflicts, we not only find new strength in our faith, but also become powerful examples for others. Deviation from the original mission. The deviation from the original mission is a subtle yet devastating trap. As we face the pressures of daily life, it is easy to lose sight of the divine purpose that once guided us. Small distractions can accumulate, leading to a gradual deviation that ultimately may result in a complete disconnection from our mission. Modern life, with its demands and expectations, often pushes us to focus on temporary issues, causing us to forget the importance of our spiritual vocation. This deviation can manifest in various ways. Some may begin to prioritize material success over their spiritual growth, while others may become caught up in activities and commitments that take them away from their true calling. This shift in focus does not occur overnight. Rather, it is a gradual process that intensifies over time. What starts as a small omission can quickly turn into a significant gap in spiritual life. Furthermore, influence of other voices can contribute to this loss of direction. Friends, family, and even religious leaders can inadvertently lead us to question our mission. This mix of opinions can create an environment of confusion, where we feel pressured to follow paths that do not resonate with our original calling. The lack of clarity about what we truly want and need can result in frustration and discouragement. The outcome of this deviation is spiritual stagnation. When we are not aligned with our mission, we experience a sense of emptiness and lack of purpose. This disconnection not only affects us personally, but also impacts the community around us. The energy and passion that could be directed towards the mission are replaced by inertia, creating a vicious cycle that's hard to break. Ultimately, rediscovering the original mission requires a return to introspection and spiritual seeking. It is essential to reevaluate our priorities and reconnect with the purpose that guided us in the first place. This may involve moments of prayer, reflection, and dialogue with God, as well as the support of people who share the same faith. By doing so, we have the opportunity to restore not only our lives, but also revitalize the community, reminding everyone of the importance of pursuing the divine calling unites us. Now, think for a moment. Have you reflected on how the devil acts in our lives? He does not choose. He makes no distinction. He attacks the anointed, the chosen, all of us, using subtle and treacherous tactics. But the good news is that with the Word of God as our armor, we can resist these onslaughts. Imagine for a moment, how many times have you felt discouraged or lost? These moments are traps set by the enemy, but divine strength is always by our side. Remember, victory is not just about winning, but about standing firm in faith. And what if I told you that it's possible to turn this struggle into a powerful testimony? How can you use your experiences to help others who are going through the same battle? Think about it. With each step we take, we are closer to our purpose. Are you ready to face these challenges? Are you willing to strengthen yourself in the Word and in prayer? Let's go together then. Share your experiences in the comments, and don't forget, every story is a light that can illuminate someone's path. Stay tuned, as there is always a new message of hope and strength waiting for you.